Welcome back to Razmafzar TV. I'm really happy to have Bede back on our channel. How are you, Bede, today?
I'm well.
Bede, we are going to talk about a very important collection. It's kept Chinese arms and armor. These are of royal quality, really high quality. You don't see it every day. I mean, at least in Europe. I'm sure in Beijing we have this collection. But one of these collections is in Musée des Armées, Army Museum in Paris. They call it also Les Invalides, and it is there. I was in that museum many times, and then I took some pictures, but I need to go there again because I have now better cameras to take better pictures and also videos.
Yeah. There's so many things that
Yes.
improve.
And so what we are going to discuss about these Chinese arms and armor. Let me just share this, then we can go there. So this is, okay. Oh, okay. Chinese arms and armor, Musée de l'Armée. For French speakers, I'm so sorry. I don't know why my computer turns it upside down. In French, it should be other way around. For some reason. Yes.
I think you're starting quotes in not in French though.
Yes, yes. It changes it the other way around, but it's okay. So is there, and I put also here a link. This link goes to the collection. Not all of these Chinese arms and armor. There are selected items from Musée de l'Armée, and you can guys, you can go and see that there. I will put it also in the description of this video, so you guys can go there. And two of these armor and one axe are described there, but we are going to discuss them as well here. So, oh, what? Why is it not showing? You don't see the pictures, do you?
No, I'm just seeing the captions or the descriptions.
Okay, I need to go out, see what happened. Wait.
Okay.
What the hell?
We can cut this all out of the video.
Yeah, something went wrong. Okay, I'm going to cut this part, no problem. Okay, just let me see what's... Yeah. My computer is going crazy.
Mine's just gone back to normal. So I'm very happy at the moment.
I hate that. Okay, I need to do it other way around. Okay. Oh, I hope this shows now. Okay. I don't know what's... But I'm going to cut this part. Excuse me. Okay. Let me see. Can you see it now a bit?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
perfect.
Perfect.
Okay, let me just go. Okay, this is then my computer, changed the direction of it. So we just go to this, and you can see here part of this collection, two sets of armor. One of them belongs to the emperor, and one of them to a general. You see also beautiful jians. You see beautiful daos, and very, very nice Chinese arms and armor. We will go with Bede through them. The first one is a Chinese armor. They call it a parade armor, made for the emperor. Okay, first, before we go ahead, next to each armor, there is a sword, but which belongs to that armor, but we will talk about it later on. First of all, let's concentrate on the armor, Bede. What do you think about this armor?
Well, parade armor is, they had real parade armors. That's what armors without any metal plates in them at all, that were meant so people could go to the big military parades and stand around all day without collapsing from the weight. This has got a highly decorated helmet.
Yes.
It's a classic Manchu style helmet.
Yes.
The earlier ones you see a little bit more roundness in the conical top of the helmet. The
Yes.
later ones it tends to be fairly straight. That could be regional too. I'm not sure. It's got Sanskrit characters around it because it's auspicious for the emperor. This is the Chenlong emperor. Um, he was the grandson of the Kangxi emperor,
Yes.
and he was very well. He ruled for a very long time.
Mhm.
He was a bit of a micromanager.
Mhm.
You might notice that the in the display, uh, there's a few mistakes being made
Mhm.
about how it's put together.
Mhm.
You can see the straps coming from the shoulders tied in the middle. They're supposed to go under the arms to
Mhm.
prevent the armor flapping around. There's usually on the tops of those shoulders there are three buckles,
Mhm.
and those buckles, the two outer buckles are there's three straps sewn to the
I
torso of
will,
the armor.
Pete, I will show you better pictures before we go
Oh,
into
good.
details. But let me just these are museum descriptions, right? So guys,
Yeah,
I did not, just for everyone who is watching it, because you know that I have been to many museums, handled many things in my hands. With Musée de l'Armée, maybe one day, but I haven't had them in my hands. So these are pictures I have taken, not just before we go. So these descriptions are by my colleagues in the museum. They attribute it to 1758, approximately, China, of course.
yeah,
Dimensions zero point 0.8, then 2.2. I mean, they also calculate up there the feather, right? So the whole thing, the
yeah,
height.
yeah. The spine it doubles the size of the helmet.
Yes, of course.
The actual helmet itself, it goes down to about there,
Yeah,
um,
yes,
and it's
yes,
got like little eye holes, and then it's got that little brim,
yes,
which is funny. The Japanese, the Qing, and the Turks
mm,
like those little brims.
yes,
They do occur occasionally in Mongolian armor too.
yes. So the
Um,
materials are steel, gold, silk, velvet, brass, fur, precious stones. And this is the description. You will find it out later on. I mean, it's put here and is what the museum gives it, right? So this is the description, right, for the emperor. And I think, Bede, you are a fan of this emperor, aren't you?
well, he was a strange character in many ways, but he presided over the last really important period of military supremacy of the Qing.
Yes,
Um, he was responsible for the rather brilliant Treaty of Nerchinsk with the Tsar, where he convinced the Russian, or his diplomats convinced the Russians that the Manchus ruled way up into northern Siberia when they didn't, and so they got up to the border of the Amur River as part of China, uh, and the Tsar restrained the Cossacks who were expanding into that area. It was a very
yes, yes,
strange event. Actually, I discovered recently a movie I watched in the 80s.
yes.
Apparently, was a German TV series, and it is about that battle.
Oh, it's about that
Uh,
battle. Okay.
it's called "Secret of the Black River" in English.
Oh,
Off the top of my head, I can't remember the German title. And anyway, the Germans don't need to hear my bad pronunciation; it would embarrass everyone. But
okay. Let me just go through that. So the materials are steel, gold, silk, velvet, brass, fur, precious stones, and inventory number 2018.0.172. And then it says that it's interesting bit, maybe what the museum writes. It says it is made of three tunics, layered one over the other. That's the museum description. The second one, that's interesting, is equipped with gilded steel plates. The pauldrons are made of two steel plates decorated with dragons in gilded filigree, and these increase the protection of the chest. Okay, so this is when we go here. Okay, Pete, you were talking in the beginning of our discussion about this, putting it in a wrong way. I think now you
yeah,
can see it a bit better, right?
yeah, that this is exactly what I meant. Those straps that are tied across the chest are actually the straps for tying the pauldrons, as they call them, down onto the arms.
Yeah.
Um, they're not supposed to be there. Of course, the mannequin doesn't have any arms, so they can't show that. But the underarm pieces actually have two ties that come from the left and the right and tie in the front. So if you saw one of these armors that in a painting, it would have those two things if they decided to show them, because they're only minor.
Just one thing, Pete, I want to show this to you. That's maybe interesting. Okay, first of all, I show this to our viewers. This is an excellent book, China, the Three
Yeah,
Emperors, 1662 to 1795. And this is the emperor, the same armor, right? Look at this.
yeah. No, it isn't the same armor.
Almost. But look at this in
Yeah.
front,
It's
Pete.
the same design. That one, the real armor for that one actually has metal plates in it.
This
You
one.
can, yeah, you can see that the borders on the thing are
But
much wider
Pete,
than the
the
borders.
museum description says this one you see has also metal plates in it. Did you see that?
Yeah, but they're talking about the decorative metal plates on the top, not the metal plates inside the armor. I think I've actually seen this armor in person. Uh, um, it's really beautiful.
What I
Does this
wanted
have
to
like
point
the
out, please take a look at the paintings.
Yeah,
You
this
see
is
there is a cord in the middle.
yeah, that's from the under armpit guards.
Yes,
Yeah, this painting is by Giuseppe Castiglioni,
yes,
who was known in China as Lang Shening. Um,
yes.
he
So
was
when
a
the
yeah,
museum beat writes that it has made of three tunics layered one over the
yeah,
other,
I don't understand that at all, because this type of armor
yeah,
is made in the torso part of the armor is one piece, so you can lay it flat on the ground.
yes,
And when you put it on, it has buttons down the sides
yeah,
and a set of buttons down the front.
yes,
That's one piece. The
yes,
second pieces are the two shoulders.
yes,
They make another set of pieces. The third pieces are the two underarm protectors,
yes,
which cover the joins either side, and they go from the underarm down to the waist.
yes,
They're not small as you see in some things on the
yes.
internet I've seen recently.
Pete, let me just show our viewers this. Okay,
Yeah,
to our viewers, guys, please take a look at that. You can see in this book, seek and no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of armors of this.
yeah,
And
of the eight
then,
banners.
yes, and then very beautiful armor sets they can see. And I wanted to show one more armor set of this in blue.
Oh yeah, yeah. See,
Really
there's some.
beautiful.
These
And
are really.
this book, for those of you who want to gain it, is actually in English, translated into English. Here you see again on his
Yeah,
horse.
that's the full painting. I saw that painting in person.
Yes,
It's huge. It is a really big painting,
yes,
and it's very detailed.
yes.
Um, when the
And
first exhibition came to Australia with these armors, uh, I I'm very interested in quivers. So
yes,
I approached the Art Gallery of New South Wales so that I could come and have a look at the quivers,
yes. And
because there was a gold satin covered quiver belonging to this emperor, the Zhenlong emperor. And they let me come in. And while I was in there, they showed me all kinds of stuff, because the senior curator of arms and armor in the um, Palace Museum was there, and they had a translator, and she was very gracious to me,
yes,
as in fact was the Art Gallery of New South Wales. And they explained a lot of things to me, that because you know what I'm like, I ask questions. And I was puzzled by some things. Other things made perfect sense to me.
yes,
Uh, there was a subsequent exhibition, and that had all the banner armors in it, plus
yes,
a different set of
yes,
quivers and bows and that belonging to the
yes.
Qianlong Emperor.
I'm
And
just
I got
one
to
more
look
point,
underneath
Pete.
those.
Yes, just one more point, and we can stop, close this chapter. For those of you who want to know, this book has also lots of Chinese armor and
Yeah,
swords. and bows and quivers. So it shows it's a very good book if you want to get it. Excuse me, I just wanted to say that. And
Now,
back
if we
to what you want to say about this armor, which is displayed in Musée d'Armée. I was, as I said in the beginning, a couple of times there. They are
Mhm.
together with very beautiful Indian arms and armor and swords in a very beautiful room with a
a
very
great
nice lighting system. And then they have also some Ottomans there and some beautiful Indonesian Chris there. And also some from Bhutan, some swords from Bhutan. So, excuse me, I just wanted to say the location of
oh
that. So
yeah,
this is then this armor, and now take a look at the helmet. Isn't it beautiful? In the
this
beginning, we
it
discussed
yeah,
about that a bit.
yeah, it's an absolute jewel. As it has around the rim of the lower rim of the helmet, it has Sanskrit letters raised up in gold and applied to the surface. There's jewels running up the center of the helmet. These helmets are typically made in two pieces, joined down the center. The gold strip on this one is normally just a steel strip, and the two sections are riveted together. So this is a typical design. The actual shape is a little bit more rounded. Some of them are quite conical. And I think this, I'm trying to remember when I saw this helmet, there was a description of, or a helmet like this helmet of the same status and decoration. Um, there was a description about it um, representing a stupa in Tibetan Buddhism, that this was a holy enclosure. I don't know whether that was accurate, and I can't remember the source, so it's not a thing unless you actually can find it that it's worthwhile really worrying too much about. But all the elements on the helmet have religious Buddhist significance.
Yes. And tell us a bit about the neck and throat protection, please.
Oh wow, this is one of the interesting things. The Manchus had a very straightforward system for ear, back of neck, and throat protection. So that's actually in three pieces. There is a central piece at the back, and then there are the two side pieces, a left and a right. And the side pieces have a tie to join the backs of the ear guards underneath the back flap. And then they have buttons so that the part that's going around the neck can be buttoned down the front to give throat protection. Obviously, that's a very vulnerable part. So almost all Manchu helmets have these done the same way. There's a very few that are slightly different, but it's a really simple, straightforward method. This helmet is the neck guard on this is meant to show a brigandine. So there would be little in one's meant for warfare. There would be little rectangular steel plates with two holes riveted next to each other with a slight overlap. And this is quite effective for sword slashes and low level piercing. I mean, a very good spearman would be able to put a spearhead through one of these, but if you're on the horse going past real quick, that's probably not going to happen. The main body of the armor, which you can see the top of there, the plates in that are bigger. They're about so big and about that wide, and they have three
Let me point
rivets.
out, please. Here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you can see those rivets there.
Yeah.
So what you see is you see a row of closely spaced rivets, then a row of rivets that are twice the distance apart, then a row of closely spaced rivets. And this is because each of these little panels of metal has a hole in the center top, a hole in the top corner, and a hole in the center side. Obviously, they can be different on either side of the armor. But these three holes give you a series of plates that are completely overlap. Well, then what I mean is they have sufficient overlap to prevent any kind of penetration. It's relatively simple to make. And on a good quality armor, the plates would be lacquered for protection against water and things like that. Um, there would be another garment under this, probably a padded garment, like a European akatan, meant to stop the metal plates from scratching against the person and absorb some impact from the blows. That armor, that undergarment may be done as just a regular Manchu coat with padding, because they made padded coats for winter as well. Or very rare occasions, I've heard of actual padded garments that mimic the top garment, but that's really rare. I've heard of it, I've never seen it. What you normally see is the person is wearing their normal garments, and then they've got a overgarment that's padded.
Yes.
Um,
Just
I
one thing I
Yeah,
would like to ask, because I'm sure our viewers are going to ask as well. So I just need to ask this question so we can
yeah,
elaborate on it. You said is in Sanskrit. Why did you say is in Sanskrit?
because that's what the curator told me when I asked. They're not Devanagari characters, but similar to standard Devanagari characters, but they've been elaborated because Buddhism was in China for a long time, and they elaborated the characters, and these are atropateic. They're meant to protect you from evil influences.
Are you
And so,
talking about here?
yep, that's the ones.
Okay. Mhm.
They look, because they're so decorative, they look vaguely like Chinese characters,
They do.
but
Yes.
they're not when you look up close, because they actually mimic Sanskrit characters. Somebody who reads Devanagari with a bit of effort might be able to work out which ones they are, but because they're isolated into groups, I'm not sure how easy it is to actually read it unless you know what they originally meant to say. I think I've
One more
Yeah,
thing for our viewers. Guys, these precious stones are emeralds and rubies, huh? They're not colored stones. For those of people, so because people see every colored stone, colored stone. These guys, these are real emeralds and these are real rubies, as
yeah,
described by experts of the museum. Okay.
yeah. No, this is very, very true. The wealth of the Manchu emperors is very hard to understand in modern terms. And when the emperor went into battle, uh, the Manchus, I don't think, lost an emperor. Well, they might have lost very early on an emperor in battle. The Ming did have one captured by the Mongols, uh, but it's the emperor wasn't right up the front, to
Yeah.
put it mildly. And it was important for him to stand out because they would have series of flags and all kinds of things to indicate commands. But where the emperor was, where the imperial guard was the center of how they managed that kind of
Yes.
organization on the battlefield. But clothes, I mean, armor like this, and yeah, there may be normally you can actually see the imprints of the plates underneath. This is a much better shot to show you that uh, that system of, like, almost like a right angle triangle on its side.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. That's the two sides of the that's meant to be where the two sides of the plate is
Pete,
underneath.
Pete, tell us about the dragon.
Well, dragons, there were ranks of dragons in decoration in Chinese clothing and things like armor.
Mhm.
So a dragon was extremely auspicious. They're not like dragons in Western mythology or even Iranian mythology.
Yes.
They're not evil. They're bringers of rain and good fortune and all kinds of things.
Yes.
And the emperor and the near imperial family, so the first rank of princes, could have a dragon with 5 claws. The next level down in the hierarchy was 4 claws, and the bottom level was 3 claws. Now, to get a dragon put on any of your equipment was good, but the emperor has 5 claws, and anyone who saw that would know, this is imperial family.
Mhm.
They wouldn't have to, because if you put 5 claws on your robes and you weren't the emperor or the imperial family, someone would knock at your door and take you out somewhere and cut your head off, because
Bede, look at
les
the shoulder
majestés, the French would
protection.
say. Sorry,
Rochelle,
yeah,
look at, you see that here? You can have a better picture. Look at this
yeah.
here. Yeah.
So it's not uncommon. I mean, like regular soldiers did not have metal plates on the outside at the top,
Mm.
but generals and emperors and princes did. It wasn't. It just it was more for decoration. They were functional in the sense that metal plates stop swords, but it was more as a statement. Like in the Ming Dynasty, you might sometimes see dragons' heads with the shoulders coming out of the mouth of the dragon, and this was a more refined version of that.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and you may notice that the patterns of rivets on the shoulders are even. There's not that three rivet structure because
Yes.
the shoulder armors. I've got a diagram of them here in in a friend's book. um, and I think they've got two holes. I'll just double check that. So this is the pattern of an armor in the Ethnographical Museum in Stockholm. This is from the 1939 copy of the Battle of Visby. Yeah, the ones in the shoulders. Oh, they're different. It appears they have three holes vertically.
Mm-hmm.
And oh no, sorry, I'm wrong. I'm looking at the wrong part. There's so many pieces in one of these armors. Technically, there's the body, the skirts, two shoulders, two armpit guards, two flaps, and two. You don't see it in this armor, but they also have sleeve parts as well to cover the lower arms. The equivalent of bazibands. Now they're yeah, two holes at the top of each scale. So that's so this is like scale armor in reverse. The scales are on the inside, not on the outside. And the advantages are you can make it a lot more beautiful. It's old. I mean, it was done. I think there's references to Tang Dynasty armors that had this pattern of plates on the inside, rivets on the outside.
Bede,
So that,
tell us
yeah,
something about how these two parts are attached to each other. Take a look at here.
okay. This is interesting. They're just a metal globular button. I've got some in there. And a bias cut loop. So just like standard Chinese buttons on clothes.
Oh.
But you notice there's not a gap because on the on one side there's an extra set of plates and they project out, so when you close the coat there's a strip of plates right down the center. There's no gap. It looks like there's a gap, but there isn't. There's a set
Oh,
of
you
plates
mean plates
underneath that.
here, right? Plates here, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's the benefit of the armor in that sense, is it doesn't leave any gaps.
Yeah, it's no gap. Yeah. It seems like
Those
no gap.
those
Yeah.
all of the, except for the shoulders and the sleeve extensions, which this armor doesn't have. I'm just checking the everything else buttons on.
Yeah.
So there are little flaps covering two of the slits. There's one in the front, and there's one on the left side. And they're buttoned on. The one in the front has 4 buttons along the top.
Mm.
The skirts of the armor are actually tied around your waist. So this armor is layered. The bottommost layer is the legs, which goes up to the waist. The topmost layer is that jacket we're looking
Here.
at.
Here.
Yeah, exactly. So what happens there is there are slits. There's one in the front, which is where the coat goes together, but there are one on each side. One slit on the right-hand side has no flap over it because that's where the quiver is. So the belt holding the quiver and the sword is underneath the top part of the armor. It's not exposed.
Yes.
On the side where the bow case and the sword are, which is the left side,
Mhm,
there's another flap because they don't have to sit as high
mhm.
because the quiver's got a particular position to allow you to take the arrows out quickly. So, yeah, it's really interesting. You'll see online people with modern reproductions of these armors, which are often really quite good, but they'll put a belt on top. And if you look at the old paintings, and there are a lot of really detailed paintings, in fact, a whole series of generals and heroes were painted large size um, to hang in one of the halls in the Imperial City. And they're very detailed about how the armor is worn. And the armor is always worn over the quiver and sword belt, not under it.
Mhm,
That means the whole top of the armor you can rotate and it doesn't drag at the bottom and
mhm.
it splits the weight of the armor into two pieces, the part you're wearing on top and the part you're wearing underneath.
Let
So
me
you
move
get
this
much more
picture for you
flexibility.
because I'm afraid you cannot see it that way. Just a second, please. I hope my computer is not going to die on me.
Yeah, well, it's not been a good night for computers.
Yeah, just a second, please. Where was I? Okay. Mhm. Hope it worked. Oh God, don't die. Uh, can you still see it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
This is the second armor, which they
yeah.
say China, and then they say general armor. Just I give the
Mm,
dimensions 2.32, right? And the date
mm,
of acquisition, as they call it, the date of acquisition, whatever, is 1909. Steel,
mm,
gold, textile, leather, pearls, velvet, precious stones, horsehair, possibly on top. 63141. Isn't this
mm.
one beautiful?
Oh yeah, this is this has got a heart mirror. That's the steel disc, which is like
Yeah.
China. Um, there should be a disc on the back too.
Yeah, it is. If you go to the website, the link I
Yeah,
gave, the museum
yeah,
shows the other side as well. Here.
yeah, yeah. So you can see that see how even the steel disc is attached by four buttons.
Yes.
So it's not straps. Those big gold dragons, metal dragons, are
Mhm.
actually the back pieces of the shoulder guards. They're
This
so
one.
pretty that when people display them in museums, they often put them on backwards so you can see them.
Yes.
Otherwise, unless it's displayed in the round where you can walk around it.
Yes.
But you can also see the buttons for the front opening of the jacket of the armor.
Here.
Um,
Here.
yeah, yeah. That's it. The buttons above that are, I think, for the neck guard of the helmet.
Ah, this one. This one.
Yeah,
This one.
yeah, yeah.
Look at
But
the mirror. I really like this mirror armor. I love it. There is so
it's really quite beautiful, and it, it's just that extra bit of protection and probably a distraction. I don't know if you've noticed this, but in any reenactment group that has archery as part of its reenactment, the people who use round shields never get hit by arrows because archers automatically shoot at the round shields because they look like a target. And I mean, it's a bit of a joke, but the same thing with these steel discs. Now, if you shot just above and to the left of the disc, you'd hit the heart because it's a bit low. But the thing is, your eye is drawn to these things, particularly when they're shiny, and it can cause you to, in the heat of battle, to mistake what you're shooting at. So if you're really trying to kill someone wearing an armor like this, you would shoot just above that disc.
yeah.
But
But
it's
below that
well,
there are still steel plates, aren't they?
there should be. This armor's laid out a bit differently because it's draped. It's hard to tell the lines of rivets whether they're for real or not. See, sometimes when they put the big steel panels at the top, uh, that's a sign it's purely a ceremonial armor for display. But this armor, it's the heart mirror. It's surrounded by a series of superimposed, stylized Chinese coins, and this is a good luck thing. You know, may you be surrounded by money, uh, which
Here.
Yeah, that's a disc with a square in it, and it's meant to represent. I believe it's meant to represent a coin. Anybody who's an expert on this, Peter Decker, if you're watching, might correct me. But yeah, there's lots of hidden symbolism in these armors. Uh, I mean, there's lots of practical things, but the kind of level of symbolism that went to, I mean, if you counted up the number of dragons in the on the tops of the shoulders there, there's probably it comes to a special number. So maybe 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So maybe 10. I don't know. It could be, maybe it's 12, 13, 15. I don't know. I'd have to see it laid out flat to really understand it. But there'll be a significance in the, because 9 dragons is a significant thing. 9 is a auspicious number in China, Manchuria, and Mongolia.
You know, when you say auspicious, is reminds me of those Persian manuscripts I translated in the book Aid to Sight of my book, and they all
Yeah.
one of them always talks about this is auspicious, this is not auspicious. It's very nice
Yeah.
to hear that.
Yeah,
Please take
people
it. Hmm?
had a
Go ahead.
this helmet. Notice how this helmet curves in,
Yeah,
whereas the other one curved out.
out.
And there was significance to this too. Um, it's also got standout dragons,
Yes, it does.
which is I mean, these things are works of art. Uh,
Look at this.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's really beautifully done.
Look at the
I mean,
surface of the steel. Beautiful, huh?
yeah, yeah, yeah. This is really good quality stuff. I mean, the armor. They give a 2.7 meters. I don't know how they worked that out. The skirts are too low on that armor because the body, the torso of the armor is usually about 70 to 80 centimeters long. So it hangs just down to the top part of the thighs, and then the leg armor underneath is around the waist. So it starts. There's probably a double layer there at some level. He's got his bow case there, which is um, a very high status bow case. I think it's got. I'm look. This is a small photo, so I think it's got 5 bats round a disc on the bow case, which
Mhm.
would be bats are pronounced fu. Um, sorry, that was the wrong tone, but and that is a homophone for good luck, I think,
Mhm.
or long life, or
Mhm.
one of those other
And
auspicious things.
look at this beat. Look at the hand protection. It reminds me of some bazoo bands with similar, some bazoo band with similar hand
Yeah.
protection. Yeah.
I've got a picture of one of those. I'll just have a quick look at it. Yeah, that shape is the shape of a standard Manchu cuff called a horse hoof cuff.
Mm,
Um, those arm guards are a cylinder,
mhm.
but on the underside there would be a series of buttons that go almost all the way down to the cuff.
Yeah.
And at the top there would be 3 buckles, and those buckles buckle onto straps that come out from the underside of the shoulder guard. And
Mhm.
that so what you do is the arms and the bottom part of the shoulder guard is buckled to the arm pieces, which means that it doesn't fly up and not work. So that's part of a actual design for a fighting armor, not
Yes.
just for a display armor. Those
Yes.
sleeves seem to be very long,
Yes.
but because they've got buckles and there are straps, it's possible that they're not attached to the
Yes.
original straps,
Yes.
because the original straps might be too delicate.
Look
Because,
at this beat. Oh, here, here, this part. I just want to show it. Oh, look at this.
yeah,
Here is
yeah,
bit
this,
torn off. You see that? Mm.
yeah, yeah. So this, as you can see, it's not 100%. That appears to only have 3 buttons attaching it. So the buttons are on This is a groin guard, effectively. The buttons are on the groin guard, the loops are on the armor. That's how it normally works.
Yeah.
And trying to work out the pattern for those is 2 rows of steel plates normally. It's hard to tell because bear in mind, A, it may not have the steel plates because it's a ceremonial armor, or B, it may have a different pattern of plates than the standard. I've just noticed there appears to be, is that a quiver on my left, but the right of the thing, or is that meant to be? It can't. That panel.
Oh, here you mean?
No. If you look next to the arm, the proper right arm, so his right arm,
Yeah.
underneath it, that I think that's the armpit guard. I'm not really sure. When I say underneath, I mean between the arm and the body.
Oh,
You
here.
can see a black rim and a series of rivets. Lower down. This is really hard to do, isn't it? Lots of little rivets close together.
Here.
Yeah. I don't know whether that's the underarm protection or not.
I mean, the museum, I have to repeat. I mean, next time I go there, I'm going to talk to curator and because I'm planning to go there. But the museum description says it has steel plates, but I will make sure when I go there
Yeah,
to
well,
see.
again, they could just be referring to the steel plates gilded at the tops of the parts of the armor.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be unusual for it to have steel plates and still be this decorative.
This one
But
you wanted to talk about. Look,
yeah. So that's the 5 bats. So
why
five is
the five bats? Tell me.
well, 5 is an auspicious number. Bats are an auspicious thing because they're a homophone for fu, which is I think good luck. Um, uh, so this is kind of wishing good luck and prosperity to the person who owns it. It's not like saying, "Oh, go out and kill somebody" or anything like that. It's totally the opposite. It's be well and successful, though the only way you can do that is by killing someone. This type of quiver's got a kind of almost stylized fish at the bottom, or it could be 2 dragons or 2 river dragons fighting or mating or whatever. Um, it's got a lot of metal fittings on it too.
Yes.
This the I've got a Manchu quiver, and the level of leather work on these is astounding.
Yes.
They're really, really good. It's like you think of countries like China and Japan,
Yes.
a lot of Buddhists, not a lot of leather working traditions, but the Japanese do beautiful leather work, despite the fact that it's not considered really proper. But look at a Japanese archer's glove
Yes.
or anything like Japanese saddles, the leather fittings for those. And the Chinese, likewise, under the Manchus, or by themselves in the Ming Dynasty or earlier, were really good at leather work.
Um,
And
Pete,
this
can
is
you
an
see
example.
this sword or do I need to move it?
I can see the hilt and the description.
Okay, so you can see also the pommel cap on this, right?
Yeah, which is like a kind of signified lion kind of thing, not a dragon, or it could be a. It doesn't have a horn, so it's not a qilin.
I mean, in
Possibly
this
a lion.
Chinese classification, like Yamma Dao, Liu Dao, and then there is one which has a highly curved blade, and I forgot the
Hmm.
Chinese name for that. But anyhow, this sword has a highly curved blade, but unfortunately, I don't have good pictures of it. Next time, I'm going to make good
Oh,
pictures
good.
of it.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Yeah, that's I think a lion. It's
Beautiful, huh?
hard because there were no lions in China, so Chinese artists had to rely on artworks from India because there still are a few lions in India, not very many. Or Central Asia into Iran. There were lions in Iran
Yes.
right up until 100 or 150 years ago. So it's a popular Buddhist animal,
Mhm.
um, and the thing is that it's got martial qualities, but it's also um, the lion figures are also guardian figures, and there's a famous thing where you'd have a male lion and a female lion.
But
One had a
Pete,
ball,
look
one had a
here on
puff.
top of the hat. It resembles like a dragon, right? Look.
Yeah, this is the whole thing. The animals are all mixed up, and to be honest, it if you looked at it really carefully, it might be a dragon. But it doesn't. I mean, it's got see, there's like little curlicue bits which might be meant to be the dragon's horns, but it also could be just stylized fur
But
for.
no matter if a lion or a dragon, you have to give it to this animal. Look at the
Yeah,
beautiful
I think
eyebrows.
yes, yes,
Very
yeah.
nice.
It's been to a very good salon to have its eyebrows done. I think what the English translator of the name of these in Chinese is Fu dog or Buddha's dogs.
Ah,
So lions were a little bit esoteric, but they liked them anyway.
very
Um,
beautiful.
yeah, they're
Look at what is the hand guard. Look what is
yeah,
how is decorated. Pearls.
yeah. It's hard to say whether it's his tongue or something he's grabbed, because the
Beautiful.
little ruby balls
Yeah,
might be meant to be, his tongue.
yeah,
Who knows? I mean, these are just fanciful and beautiful things.
beautiful. This is a very nice Dao saber. Very beautiful.
Oh yeah.
I think you would love the scabbard. Look at this.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
this is beautiful lacquer work.
Yeah,
But look at the engraving of the metal parts as well.
unbelievable.
That's very fine work. And it actually is related to the painting, the lacquer painting on the scabbard, because it
Yeah,
is flowers and vines all entwined in that. So there's
beautiful.
a kind of consistency there.
Beautiful.
Very beautiful though.
Let me just go. Look, Pete.
Oh
Unbelievable.
yeah. And the
Breathtaking.
thing, the standard dowel scabbard fittings they used in the Qing dynasty are really quite simple. You have like a bar which has two slots for the suspension straps, and another bar goes around the body of the scabbard
Yeah.
at each suspension point. So one thing keeps them rigid and stops it putting pressure on the scabbard to bend it. And these scabbards are really solid, so it's not going to happen. I'm just trying to think. My oh yeah, my Ming sword has separate um, rondelles, but my Qing sword has this kind of suspension. And in fact, most modern martial arts swords that come with proper scabbards have this suspension, because this was the suspension that everybody thought was military.
Yes,
And
yes, absolutely. We
it's
had it on Yanma Dao, Liu Dao, and it went on to Niue Dao. So we had on all these types of Daos. Absolutely.
oh
Um,
yeah, they had a big variety of
yeah.
single-edged sword types.
Look at this.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
and these kind of classic cloud or leaf motifs and that are just perfectly integrated into the
I
design of the.
really love the way Chinese handles all these knots and the way they wrap it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It reminds
And
me, it's
and
not
they really
similar. It's not similar
yeah,
to Nihonto, but it
my
somehow reminds me of Japanese. I love that the way they do it.
I think that the purpose for them is the same.
Look
The
at
the
this.
style is different.
Look at
But
this.
knotwork type thing is very well. Look, even the sword knot. See that knot in the sword knot? That's a two-part um uh crown knot kind of thing. They still do this in Argentina, the gauchos, when they're making saddlery stuff and that. I've got a video that I you know, saved um,
Look
from
at the
an
pommel cap.
Argentine. Oh, the pommel caps are beautiful.
All of them. Right.
See, this is really good metal work.
Really.
Really, I mean, these swords, a lot of the lower grade ones, when you get them in antique markets, the discard is a bit loose because the wood shrinks with age and it's not as tight as when it was made.
Yes.
The high quality ones, this doesn't happen with.
Look at this one.
Yeah, that's
This is a
nice.
beast.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't want someone to swing that at you.
Look at
And
that.
notice this type of sword rarely has a down curved handle. They nearly all dead straight.
Yes.
Um, which proves that it works. And they nearly all have a lanyard that you can slip over your wrist.
Look at this.
Yeah, that as I say, on my old sword, it has that kind of binding on the handle, but it's hundreds of years old, so it's kind of gone into a uniform pattern. But you can still see the way it's braided. And
Yes.
this is just so nice.
Very
And
nice.
they are really comfortable. I mean, I'm not that grip shape a lot of people don't like, but that binding on any kind of sword hilt is really comfortable to hold.
Look at the scabbard fittings.
Yeah, this is an interesting feature of a lot of Chinese swords is the scabbard fitting is two straps that go to a central ring, and then there's a hook on the ring that fits on your belt.
Yes.
So they're easy to take on and they're easy to put back on again. And traditionally, the Manchus wore their swords on the left with the hilt backwards. But this type of mounting means you can just turn it around and draw the sword out. But because the hilt is facing backwards, when you're not using the sword, it's out of your way when you're shooting a bow or something like that.
Yes, right.
So, and there's a little buckle there to adjust the length to get exactly the right angle of hanging of the blade. This is unusual because it's got a clip point. You don't see very many of those. I
On
know that
Peter
there is.
Dekar website, I think he wrote an article as well. There is a
Yeah,
Chinese name for that. And oh God, again, forget that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is why we're doing a kind of reaction to this. Peter's the person you go to for an exact description because he does know the terminology and he can express it properly. And I notice on his website, he often, when he has an interesting piece, he writes an article about it with all of those interesting details. So I always recommend people to go to Mandarin Mansions and have a look at his stuff because Peter is incredibly knowledgeable.
His area of expertise is Chinese sword. Very nice. Very
It's
nice.
mainly Manchu.
Yeah. Yes.
Because he can read Manchu as
Yes.
well as Chinese. That gives him, he can compare. There can be two versions of a literary work about swords, for instance, one in Manchu and one in Chinese. And despite the fact that one's supposed to be a translation of the other, they're never quite the same.
Listen,
One,
Beat, I don't know if you can
yeah,
figure this out. I don't have a good picture. There is a writing inscription on it. I need a better picture so we could discuss it.
yeah,
But I cannot, I don't have a good picture of it. Next time I will.
yeah,
Yeah. So this is the Jian, the straight sword. Look at this beauty.
yeah. That's a beautiful example.
Yes.
Yeah, again, see the quality of the metalwork is exceptional.
Yeah.
Um,
And what is very interesting, of course, we have Jians like that as well. But most Jian hand guards or the guards don't look like that, right?
no,
Disc
gens
shape.
generally have handguards like the sword. I'm pointing to the sword on the wall, which you can't see. I could get it down, I suppose, and
Yes,
um,
I can see. But normally, this disc shape, normally, we cannot make always 100% generalization, right? But like when I did my research, before I did, people, oh, shamshirs are highly curved, which they were used even straight swords up to the end of the Qajar period, right? But the thing is, if you take a look at that, you see how beautiful this disc is. And as we can see it here, look at this bead. Look
yeah,
at
this
God,
is what
how
I like
crisp.
the embossing, the great technical skill. And you might say, well, um, as I say, really old Chinese, well, Ming's not really old, but it's old for us. Um, this kind of high level of embossing and well, sometimes they're cast and chased. When you're making a lot of them, that's probably more efficient than embossing them. And it's probably if you're making a brass handguard, if it's cast, it's probably solider, particularly if you've treated it properly. But all of the fittings on swords like that are of high. That's beautiful.
Look,
There's a bit of symbolism in there that might be meant to be a juyi, like a fungus, um, shape, which is again an immortality
Another
wish.
thing which is very interesting on this Jian is, of course, as we see that the handguard is not the typical 8 Jian we know. It
Mhm.
resembles disc shape. Another beautiful thing on this is this knots normally you see on normally, I always say generally normally, you see on
Mm.
Daos, not on Jian, but it has it on this Jian as well, which is
Yeah, yeah.
very good.
This has clearly been made for somebody who wanted to combine the two different ideas because
Yes.
the original Jan mounts are much um, simpler,
Yes. Look at
but
this.
yeah, that's beautiful.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Unbelievable. Really beautiful. And look at this again.
yeah,
Beautiful.
you can just see the quality in these.
Yes.
Um, the that's got more of a. I mean, it looks more of a Jan shaped grip. Jan grips tend to fatten out and then slim down, whereas Dow grips tend to be
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
well, the Qing ones are fairly straight.
Yeah.
The other ones are more curved, like Ming and that have got a more curved handle. Um,
Okay, we have this item as well.
mhm.
Which goes down, another base, this bigger, larger one, this one in the middle, this one goes down. And then we have this like hanging
Oh
down.
yeah, they're masters of tassels. I was given some tea by a Chinese archer, and the tassel on the bottom of the container is so decorative that I haven't drunk the tea because I want to keep the whole thing together because it's so pretty. Which is silly because it's very good tea. Um, yeah, this is high quality carving jade. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, they're beautifully done, and it's when you think about it, it's like a six petal flower in a ring with various decorations around it. You'd say, oh well, that's not. Oh, I just saw something I like.
Yes.
It's not terribly uh, difficult from a design point of view, but when you do it in something like jade and you take advantage of the surface quality of polished jade and that, these are really attractive.
And now something for you, Beat. Stirrup.
Yeah. A nice Manchu style stirrup. Um, I've got a pair on my bookcase. Not that I ride horses on my bookcase, but it's a good place to put stirrups. And they stood on the ball of the foot in the stirrup. There's a lot of very accurate paintings of Manchus riding, and it's the same as what the Mongols do today in Mongolia, um, where other people put their foot right into the stirrup. But if you see paintings of Manchus or videos of Mongols riding, they're basically standing on the ball of the foot, which is like just behind the toes on that rounded part of the foot before the arch. And their heel is high, so they're basically almost riding on their toes.
Mm.
But these stirrups give you a lot of stability. They're really, really stable when you're riding. Um, Often, the stirrup leathers aren't as thick as we would use, and that's because of the way the weight's distributed differently when you're riding in that style. Oh,
We go now to a
yes.
matchlock.
Oh
Beautiful.
yeah. These are
Look at
base.
the gun stock, look at here.
Yeah, yeah, this is not a poor man's matchlock. I was going to say that they're based on Turkish matchlocks, and there are 16th or 17th century Chinese manuals of how to use a matchlock, and the person demonstrating how to load them and shoot them is a Turk. He's wearing a turban and everything because the Turks had a very high reputation for their firearms.
Look at this. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I was,
And
yeah.
then there
Oh,
is an axe, and this one is also very beautiful. It's 1750. I'll have descriptions from the website.
yeah.
Dimension 0 to 4 width and 1.48 is the height. It has a
Mm.
very sharp steel blade. So this one, unfortunately, the room is very dark. So, but next time I go with better equipment. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is it. Axes have been symbolic in China since the Shang dynasty. I mean, in the tomb of Fu Hao, one of the queens of the Tang dynasty, there's this huge bronze axe. I mean, the blade is that big for beheading people, possibly for human sacrifices too. But axes have always been symbolic. They've always been important, and they were made right up to the end of the Qing dynasty. Um, and the Ming guardian figures for the Ming tombs. Often there are people there with axes like this. The Qing used them as well. Uh, there's a whole suite of weapons that are kind of specialist weapons that you would have a few people in your brigade trained up to use these. Long-handled maces, axes, um, um, reclining moon knives, which is a Quandale, the big bladed two-handed weapon. This
and
is a
look at
parrying
this one.
weapon. Yeah, this is a parrying weapon. I think it's a ge. I can't remember its exact name.
Yeah.
The crescent-shaped blade is a pair of hooks. So if somebody attacks you with a spear and they're thrusting the spear with you, you use the front part of it to catch the shaft of the spear, and then you run it down the shaft of the spear towards the hands of the guy holding it, hoping that the point will stab him in the hand and he'll have to drop his spear. And if somebody is moving away from you, you can use the lower part of the crescent to hook them and pull them over or pull them off their horse or all kinds of stuff. This is a very effective weapon.
Yes, and very
Um,
good quality steel. You can tell.
oh, this is yeah. I've seen a few of these. Actually, there's a Chinese furniture shop near where I live that's got one in a stand. It's totally modern, but it really looks quite good.
So this
Uh,
was our discussion. I mean, arms and armor, Chinese arms and armor. Among them, you can see some Bhutanese swords, which I didn't include.
yeah.
But we can talk also about Ottoman. They have Ottoman items there. We can discuss
Well, it's
another
an
time.
interesting thing, both in the Topkapi Sarai and in the Imperial Palace in Beijing. There are swords, saber type swords, so a curved Kilich type sword in even I say it now, Kilich, curved Kilich type sword, and imperial sabers belonging to the emperors with jade Kanjar
Yes.
handles affixed to a sword blade because the handles are so beautiful. So the handles would be imported
I need,
and
yeah.
remounted on the local sword, whether in Turkey or in China. It's amazing.
I need to say something at the end of our discussion because a viewer asked me, sent me a very quite long email thanking all of us on Razmafzar team for all these videos, and he asked me a question which I said I'm going to answer it in this video. He asked me a question, said, "Okay, you go to United Kingdom, you go to France, to all these European countries, even in the United States, like Smithsonian's and many of these, right?
Yeah.
And then you see lots of Chinese arms and armor. You see Turkish arms and armor, Ottoman arms and armor. You see Indian arms and armor. You see Tibetan. You see this, Japanese arms and armor. How
Mhm.
come most Iranian arms and armor are in Iran and not in other museums?
Well, I
Pete,
mean,
I leave this question to you to answer. Pete, how come that Iranian arms and armor are mostly in Iran and not outside? Could you please answer this question?
well, I think it's not entirely true that it's mostly in Iran. There's a large amount in Russia
Yeah,
because
Russia, of
the
course.
Shah's gave lots of presents.
Yeah, but they were
Uh,
presents, but we are
uh,
not talking about presents. You know what I mean, right?
yeah, yeah. But this is what happened. In Sweden, the Shahs gave presents to the Swedish king. So there's quite a few interesting pieces of Persian arms and armor there. But largely what happened was that a lot of the say Chinese arms and armor in Western collections was acquired during the Boxer Rebellion and several colonial wars in China. So it is essentially booty. The Japanese armors that are in Western collections were largely purchased in Japan after the Meiji Emperor banned samurai from
Yes.
having swords and stuff like that. So they were no longer of any use. So and the Westerners thought, well, they're really beautiful. And the Japanese said, yeah, but we can't use them anymore because the emperor will have us killed. So a lot of Japanese arms and armor, and people like Bashford Dean and Stone, George Cameron Stone, uh, went to Japan and bought armors. They went to China and bought armors too. See, a lot of the stuff in the late 19th century, early 20th century was purchased. A lot of the stuff in the mid 19th century and the early 19th century was captured in battle or after battles. This is why there's so much Indian stuff in high quality Indian arms and armor in Britain,
Yeah,
because when the British captured a city and it had this huge armory in it, they picked the pretty things and take them home.
they did.
There's a classic story. I can't remember who it was. I could look it up. It's um, in Lord the Elgin, the book about uh, Oriental arms and armor by Elgin, where one of the governor generals um, is in India, Governor General of India, British Governor General of India, and he either captures or is given a thumb ring made of a solid emerald, and he, he's going to give it to Queen Victoria, and years later,
Mm.
his valet or something gets one of his vests or whatever out to clean it, and the emerald's still in the pocket. So he does give it to the Queen eventually. So there was a lot of to and I mean, we tend to think a lot of stuff was captured, like the fall of the Summer Palace north of Beijing. Um, there's a lot of stuff in English, French, and German collections that was collected then. But if you look at the Dresden collection, there's a Japanese sword mounted in enamels and cloisonne in Germany,
And
because the sword.
to add to that, lots of Japanese swords, unfortunately, after the Second World War, we all know how they found their way to the United States, right? They were
Oh
also
yeah,
taken as booty.
yeah.
And also lots of these swords, as you know, in Wallace collection and those collections were also, after they, I don't know, Tipu Sultan and all those things, because this is a
Well,
huge
yeah.
issue,
You
right?
know,
We need to
I, I
discuss.
think I think particularly Tipu Sultan put up such a strong fight that the British wanted souvenirs to
Yes.
say we were involved in fighting this guy. He was really quite good. I mean, 50 years later, they say, oh yeah, well these primitive people, we civilized them, whereas in fact at the time, a lot of the English were really quite impressed.
Yes.
There's a lot of written material of English commenting on Indian swords, on Persian swords, on
Yes.
Turkish swords.
Yes.
They were impressed,
And
and we.
another thing I wanted, the question viewer wants to ask, can you make effective armor, you, Pete, made of
Me.
paper?
Oh, that's rude.
Okay, a viewer says to ask you, ask Pete
Well,
if he can order an armor you make completely out of different layers of paper and it gives him protection. Can you do that?
uh, I can't. I know how it's done, and I've been doing a little bit of study. Uh, your colleague David Nicol
Oh,
wrote
yeah.
an article some time ago
Yes.
where he was translating various Arabic works on armors. And what they are effectively were, they were made out of leather and other things, but it was effectively papier mâché.
Exactly.
So layers of thin material, like paper, glued together with just a basic glue and built up to, like a half-inch thick or something. And this stuff is really strong. A person I knew back 30 years ago made a shield out of a kind of combination of papier-mâché and glued strips of cloth until it was built up to be about that thick. And it was in one of the metal weapons reenactment groups, and it survived for years. So technically, yes, it can be done. Me, I couldn't do it because to make an armor with rigid pieces like that, as opposed to lamellar armor, you've actually got to have a very good idea of the shape of the body and everything. And that's more like making a European plate armor. You've got to get measurements, and I don't have the time to do that. Making strip armor, like laminated armor like that, that would be an interesting process. And after reading Nichols' work, it did strike me that it would be worthwhile to make a Jorshan that way.
Yeah, that
So
would be
in
a really
strips,
good project. Really.
yeah. So because what you can do is you can make three-dimensional blocks like block printing, but to make raised patterns on it. So you make your hoops. That's what Nicol calls it. Make your hoops in a mold, and if you make multiple hoops of multiple sections, then you can make it fit almost anybody. Whereas if you made it like there's in one of the big museums, there is a char aina made for Shah Abbas, made of hardened leather. It looks
Yes.
just like a steel one, but it's been painted and everything. And it
Indeed,
would have
I
been good.
handled a char aina from Zand period. You know that in Arms and Armor is in Military Museum of Tehran. I have
Yeah,
made of rhino hide. I have
yeah,
never ever seen such strong plate made of rhino hide,
yeah,
so thick, unbelievable,
yeah.
unbelievable.
White is a remarkable material for making weapons. I've got a light box out. I'm going to take a photograph of that rhino hide shield of
Yes.
mine
Oh yeah, I
with a
was
light
waiting
box
for it.
behind. Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
I'm going to do that because
yes,
I'm
please
interested
do.
in how it
Another
looks.
question, last question from one of
Yeah,
our
yeah.
viewers. The same viewer asks, okay, he said, if you say yes, you can. The possibility is there. You said yes. Okay. Can you make a helmet made of paper?
I
Effective.
would I would actually like to do that because I've seen a couple of helmets uh that from my point of view are made from hardened leather, but you could do the same in papier-mâché. So I'd have to
Exactly.
make a mold of the helmet and then apply it and then test it with real swords as opposed to reproduction swords to see how well it stands up.
Yeah.
Because I think it'd probably be quite good. And if not as good as a metal helmet, it'd probably make a really good safety helmet for riding because that I mean it's a really I mean if you built it up
Yes.
between 6 and 12 millimeters, I reckon it'd be really hard to get through it. You'd have to wear padding because it would transmit the shocks. And if somebody hacked at you with like that big Chinese axe, maybe it wouldn't survive that. But sword blows, it might. Arrow shots, I think that's a good project.
Yeah.
Whoever it is, good idea. I'll give it a try. I have I want to make a rawhide layered rawhide
Yes.
helmet, and to do that I've got to make a mold, and the mold would be just as good for making a papier-mâché one as well. So I could kill two birds with one stone. I only just realized how to make those shields with the upturned rims. It struck me how blinkered you are when you're thinking about that. To make a little parring shield or a shield like the one in the back there, which is bigger, you go out and buy a wok, a domed wok, not a flat bottom wok. You get your you make or buy a rattan or wooden ring. You put your leather on the wok, fold it over the ring, nail it down, and put it under pressure until it dries. This would be layers of rawhide, for instance, and then cut around outside the nails, and then you have that beautiful turned up lip, but it's been used structurally to create the shield. So that's a project for maybe later in the year. I've been pricing woks. I mean, I've got a wok, but I use that one for cooking, and I'm not going to. And it's got a flat bottom anyway. But I've been seeing it. It'll cost me about 20, $30 to get a wok of the right size to make a nice parrying shield. And I reckon it depends on how hard it is. I mean, I don't mean how hard it is that way, but how difficult it is to actually get it to work. Um, because you put animal glue between the layers of rawhide and it would meld into the rawhide. So you'd get something that was a consistent. I mean, you could see layers, but it would be very consistent. And you could even underpaint it. So the top layer, before you put that on, you could do a painting on it. And then because rawhide's fairly translucent, you might be able to actually get the painting to be seen through the rawhide if you polish the surface just right. It's an interesting thing. Shields, I experimented a little bit on rattan and silk, like a Calcan shield. I never made a full size one because I've got a life and that's going to take a long time. But it's really, I mean, when I saw the Ottoman ones in the Suleiman exhibition, and I was, this far away from them, actually, every now and then the museum guards and curators would come over to see that I wasn't trying to do something bad. But I would be magnifying glass looking at things. How is this woven? How do these pieces fit together and that? So I think shields are really interesting. I think helmets, I'm not a blacksmith. I'm never going to be able to make a steel helmet like your friends in Ukraine do.
Yes.
So I find this interesting. I'm wondering if my technical skill as a painter would be good enough to decorate them properly. But,
After he said
yeah,
that,
like,
I get from a package this, right? And I put 3 layers, right, on top of each other. And I put it here on my hand and tried to cut. I couldn't cut it.
Yeah. Well,
So you see, okay, I didn't swing a sword, right?
No.
Of course, but with a knife, and then you see even these 3 like this, and it's not even glued like this, just on top of each other, right? And I said, man, how hard it is to cut that, right?
I mean, paper is made generally from wood.
Yeah.
It's when you add glue to that mix, you can make something really strong. I mean, papier mâché was usually done with flour and water glue.
Yeah.
Now, in Turkish archery and the composite bow, they make the comment, when you're putting the bits of the leather part of the zipper together, don't use saddler's paste, because when you covered the wooden frame of your saddle with leather, it was glued down with flour and water glue.
Very good.
So, I mean, all these techniques are circulating around there.
Yes.
I think it'd be worthwhile. I think it depends on how heavy it worked out. But a papier mâché helmet with a thickness of between 6 and 12 millimeters, I think would be resistant to sword cuts. I mean, I don't mean you couldn't, if you kept chopping, you wouldn't chop through it. But I mean, in a fight, someone's only going to get 1 or 2 blows into your head before either you're dead or they're dead. So, yeah, that's a really good idea. Oh,
Okay.
geez, another thing to try.
Thank you very much. Okay, it was a
months.
very good discussion. Hope you enjoyed it. These arms and armor.
Oh, it was. Yeah, I find Chinese armor really interesting because it's even though they're very decorative, it's very utilitarian for the wearer. It's well designed for the wearer.
And some similarities to the Timurid we discussed,
Oh, there's a lot. The skirts on many Chinese armors of the Qing dynasty have the pattern of embroidered bands and strips of metal and embroidered bands. And actually, that book I was looking at actually shows you pretty much how it fitted together. And this is it's an efficient way to make a kind of lamella without making lamella, because the metal strips only need 3 holes. And the fabric stops them from moving around against each other. And you could slash the fabric to ribbons and the thing would still hold together. So I find the similarities between Timurid and Qing to be quite outstanding. And when you have a look at some of the really old Qing armors from before they conquered China, you can see even more similarities in the kind of strips on the sleeves and all this kind of stuff. It's really interesting. The one thing they don't have is baser bands.
No, that's exactly awesome. Thank you very much, Veed. It was really lovely talking to you, and I wish you a nice day. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.